Hello there, Father.
Hello, Colin.
I hear you're a racist now, Father.
What?
How did you get interested in that type of thing?
Who said I'm a racist?
Everyone's saying it, Father.
What's on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, and it absolutely appears that the Star Wars shills have gone into absolute panic mode. Like, I've never seen a circling of the wagons quite as obvious as this one, where we kind of went from like, the show's obviously not good. There's many bad things about Star Wars The Acolyte. Many memeable things like fire in space, or that the Force is female, or that Anakin Skywalker is no longer special, or that there's some hot lady on lady stuff going. All this insane stuff. The Star Wars official account not even knowing what spice is and having it as like a kid's treat. All this stuff. It was fun, you know. I don't know if we're ever going to see any future ratings numbers, any future like viewership numbers, because we already know that the show itself did not even outdo Ahsoka, even though Disney tried to say how amazing and stunning and brave it was, you know. And here we have The Acolyte. Now, I think we finally hit rock bottom at a 15% audience score. Obviously, the show is, you know, probably not a 15. You know what I mean? Like, it's probably not a 15% show. It's, you know, I think if you really dislike it, a 3 or a 4. It's probably more like a 5, kind of forgettable, mainstream trash. It's not a 1 out of 10. Unless you're a hardcore Star Wars fan and you are lashing out because they've destroyed the lore, and it's fun to make this number go lower. But now we've got the Disney shills coming in, Paul Tassi, now calling it embarrassing for fans. They're mad that the fans are reviewing the show. You know, whenever I leave an angry review, I always use my computer, but I haven't talked about them in a long time. I'm a Meta PCs guy. Promo code The Quartering, link in the description. You can save money. If you're in the market for a new PC anytime soon, I've put together a list of kind of good, better, best computers. My actual computer that I'm using is for sale on here if you're as much of a lunatic as I am. But they also have ready-to-ship options, custom build options. They have more affordable options. They have laptops. They have everything you could ever need. They hate cancel culture. They've stuck by me for years and years. So when you're ready, link in the description, Meta PCs. Promo code The Quartering. Let the chat, go chat with them, build something up, and tell them The Quartering sent you. They love that. The Acolyte's 15% audience score is embarrassing for the audience scores. What? Come on, player. Come on. Come on. Come on. You really doing that? You're doing the thing. You're doing the, is it me who's out of touch or is it the children thing? While Star Wars has had many controversies in the Disney era, viewers have now mobilized a fleet of TIE bombers to obliterate user scores on The Acolyte wherever possible, namely Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb. I previously reported that this started up right at release. The Acolyte quickly became the lowest rated audience Star Wars project besides the infamous holiday special, which, by the way, is now lower than that. Now its 33% score is dipped below the special's 20% score, all the way down to 15%. One thing that like Disney shills and the media seem to always really get their panties in a bunch about is review brigading. Are people going out of their way to leave negative reviews about The Acolyte? Yes. Are people also going out of their way to leave positive reviews about The Acolyte? Yes. We've proved this time after time after time. If I go to IMDb, there will be hundreds, if not thousands, of 10 out of 10 reviews. We know the show is obviously not a 10 out of 10. Nobody on the planet thinks the show is a 10 out of 10. But also, I think the review brigading, or kind of the loud voting, is important. It's the fandom saying, we want our voices to be heard, and this is the only way we can make our voices heard. They go on to say, at a certain point, this is just absurd. It says a lot more about the viewers than it does about the quality of the show itself, which has barely even gotten started, now just 3 episodes in. No, I'm not going to entertain a debate that it is not review brigading. A 15% score is barely a third of the last most controversial Star Wars project, The Last Jedi. Nothing is even close except the holiday special. On IMDb, it's even easier to see. A full 54% of all reviews are 1 star, giving a 3.6 out of 10. But again, there's 4,000 10 stars. Their whole conversation collapses. Their whole narrative collapses, and they show you the data right here. 3.7 thousand people gave the show a 10 out of 10. And if you want to include the 9s, that's 5,000 people gave the show a 9 or a 10. The show is obviously not a 9 or a 10, but Paul Tassi loves to ignore that people positive review brigade as well. Now it does pale in comparison to the 25,000 people that voted a 1, an additional 5,000 that voted a 2. But again, it does ignore, they always ignore the shills that give it 10s. Also, how fast it's happened. For instance, Ahsoka only has 5,000 total reviews on Rotten Tomatoes after being out for months. And The Acolyte has aired 3 episodes in 2 weeks and has 10,000 reviews in. The last season of The Mandalorian only has 2,500 reviews. The beloved Andor has 5,000 a year later. I love how the Disney shills, or these people that, Paul Tassi is a leftist. He thinks, when they cram politics or they cram some, LGBTQ stuff into kids shows, that's good. So the reviewers, like the actual reviewers, only ever review these shows and movies based on the politics that are in them, right? Do you think that if The Acolyte had any kind of, say, pro-Trump messaging in it, that they would have had an 84%? No, of course not. It would have been a 30% from the reviewers, and not a single one of them would have mentioned that. They would have all said, oh, well, the cinematography is not very good. So critics themselves are also guilty of positive review brigading. 5 out of 5. Any critic that gave this show a perfect score on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way, is a shill review brigader. It is not a perfect show. And the fact that when you look at top critics giving it an 84, that's absurd. That's absurd. And by the way, all this is going to do now is Rotten Tomatoes is going to turn off the reviews. That's what they're going to do. Disney's going to say, hey, remember how we got YouTube to remove the dislike button because fans were destroying every one of our new woke pieces of crap TV shows? They're going to get Rotten Tomatoes, which is bought and paid for because Rotten Tomatoes survives exclusively off, guess what? Ads for movies, okay, and Fandango, all right? So they are owned by Hollywood. So, of course, they're not going to allow this to continue. You tell me Lady Bird's a 99%, but Titanic's an 80. Reviews are largely untrustworthy. I mean, if you look at the critic reviews, okay, if I look at top critics, they gave it close to as high as they gave a Lord of the Rings movie, for crying out loud, okay? 84% is absurd. You look at this, in 3 episodes of The Acolyte, we've had campfires in space, obese Jedi, the only white Jedi ending himself, space ladies making babies with the Force, an all-female musical scene, a stone temple built on a rock burning down, and the retcon of the Chosen One prophecy, which refers to Anakin Skywalker. WTF. None of this, by the way, all of these are valid criticisms that Paul Tassi would say, hey, that's not fair. I thought that this was a funny tweet. Remember when we thought this was as bad as Star Wars could get? Silly us. Again, Star Wars Acolyte now has a lower audience score than the Star Wars Ewoks, which had a 21%. And, of course, RIP Star Wars, it is now rated worse than the Christmas special. Does this invalidate the negative reviews? What the critics would want you to believe is that just because fans are lashing out and perhaps going out of their way to leave a negative review, that this is them You know, it invalidates their negative review. They're all just chuds and incels. Wrong. What this tells you, if you are smart, okay? If you actually care about, you know, Disney, Star Wars, or Star Wars in general, and you're at Disney, this should tell you that there is an enormous amount of people that still love Star Wars. There's a lot of YouTubers who pretend to hate it, but they love it and they just want it to be good. And there's nothing wrong with that. All these people, 25,000 people going out of their way to leave a 1 out of 10 and another 5,000 leaving a 2 out of 10. That's 30,000 people that would almost certainly be buying tickets to see the next Star Wars movie if it wasn't woke trash. There is nobody, and I mean nobody, tuning into Star Wars just because it happens to be woke now. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. I could give you a long list, a very long list of shows that were exceedingly woke that got canceled. You can look at any of the CW, action heroes, Batwoman, Supergirl. Look at what's happening to Doctor Who, right? They are pandering to woke leftists to get high review scores and to qualify for the ever more diverse requirements around Grammy and Emmy nominations and Golden Globes and all this kind of stuff, right? Like, you know that to get a Grammy, or whatever, the Grammy's music, right? To get a Golden Globe or to get an Emmy, you have to have X, Y, and Z in terms of this number of deaf people, this number of black people, this number of obese people, this number of LGBT people, that's a real thing. So these shows want to get awards. These shows want to appease critics. And lost in all of that is people that actually want to watch these movies. People who are actually fans of Star Wars. And unfortunately, they continue to double, triple, and quadruple down on what everybody hates. You have Grace Randolph admits Lucasfilm poked the bear with the Acolyte, then accuses critics of taking on, quote, hate speech qualities. Grace Randolph is an extremely progressive movie reviewer. You see, I understand why some of you are frustrated with Star Wars right now, but I by no means telling you that your feelings are wrong. I do feel the loudest voices against the Acolyte are taking on hate speech qualities that does not help your cause. I mean, I read a tweet that had, 10 legitimate criticisms of the Acolyte, okay? Now, I do think that you do lose, right, some interest in people wanting to listen to you if you're only talking about woke, 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 woke. You've got to give other legitimate criticisms, like how they destroyed Anakin Skywalker, the entire legacy of the Chosen One. That has nothing to do with the being, female space witches who like to munch rug. That has nothing to do with that. But they hand wave that away. This is not the criticisms you're looking for, right? Are you interested in any upcoming Star Wars projects? With 18,000 votes, no, I am done is the overwhelming popular choice. Mando and Grogu movie, no shot. Filoni movie, no shot. I've seen what Dave Filoni did. He's the guy that's making the choice about the witches and the Acolyte. He's the one that did that. So, nah, it's cringe. It's bad. Bad show. $200 million budget. Keep wasting your money. Eventually, they're going to have to put out something good or give up entirely before all of the fans are gone. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like on it. If you haven't yet, please do leave a like or subscribe or follow down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.